Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of the Golden Years retirement community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show, we'll revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Ike Eisenman and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, along with Ike Eisenman. And today we are thrilled to welcome someone who has appeared in many beloved shows, including being a regular on Tony, Orlando, and Dawn, another one of my favorites growing up, The Kraft Super Show, and starred in the horror classic, The Hills Have Eyes. Please help us welcome Susan Lanier. Susan, thanks so much for joining us.
It's my honor. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, to start with, you grew up in Dallas. As a kid, were you always interested in acting, or was it something that you did in school as well?
I think there was never a time of me not wanting to entertain. I remember being 3, 4, in tap class and dance class and out in front and showing off and I think it's just you're born with that. I have a brother and a sister. They are so far from that. They are shy and reclusive, and here I am out in front. I don't know. I think it's just in your blood. You're born with it.
When did you make the decision to go out and try it for real?
Well, I was 17 when I joined one of the unions, and so I was really young. I knew I won an acting award in Dallas when I was 13. And then I joined a theater company that it included Morgan Fairchild and her fabulous sister, Catherine Hart, and a writer, a Hollywood writer, producer named Bill Bickley. And we were all in this theater company called Theater 3 in downtown Dallas. And Beth Henley was part of it. And we all moved on to have different and various kinds of careers in the business. It was a breeding ground, almost a programming school to make you think like at the professional. And actually, Jack and Norma, who owned it, really taught us the love of acting. And we loved it so much. I remember I would scrub, we would all have jobs in the theater just to be there, scrubbing toilets and, sweeping the stage and painting flats and everything. And it just became a way of life. And I never really thought outside of that world.
Wow. Well, one of your first credits we were looking at was in Happy Days. So how did that come about, and what was that feeling to look around and be on something that had already been a big hit?
Well, it was the first season, so it was not a huge hit. It was a quasi hit when I got here. And one of the names I just mentioned, Bill Bickley, William S. Bickley, was one of the producers of the show. He after graduating school, he came to LA. I went via New York. And so I moved out here about 5, 6 years after he did, maybe more. And he was producing it. And so the first day I got here, I didn't know anybody, literally. And I called him up and I said, "Hi, I just wanted to say I'm in LA and sure would love to see you sometime." And he said, "Well, come to Paramount tomorrow for lunch." And I said, okay. So I was thrilled. I'd done film before, but I'd never been at a real Hollywood Paramount studio. He left me drive on past right by the stage, and he took me to lunch, and then he took me on the set, and I was meeting Gary Marshall and Tony Marshall and everybody, and Henry Winkler sees me and he goes, "Hey, make her my girlfriend on the show," that kind of thing. And so they wrote me in that week, and I did not have a large part, but the whole key to Hollywood is having a part so that people will take you seriously to get you to the next part. And it was a precious little part that they wrote me into, and it's a Hollywood story of who you know. You know, it's
Oh,
a very
absolutely.
who you
Yes.
know. And he didn't have to do that. And he started my career here.
That's like the best story ever. It's like we always are asking other people who are not from Los Angeles. They come from somewhere else and they have this aspiration. And I grew up in the business, so I never had to like take myself somewhere completely foreign where I didn't know anyone and try to get an acting career going. And I'm always impressed when I hear these things. You knew one person, you called him, and it got you your first job. I mean, that's just fantastic. But regarding the show, did you have any interaction with the cast off camera when you weren't shooting?
Well, yeah, I went out with Henry, and he was my first date in LA. So,
Oh my gosh.
and we're still friends. And I just saw him at a Hollywood Celebrity Con where we, sign autographs and things. And oh my God, it was like, oh, I mean, kissing and hugging, and how are you? And Donnie Most was there, and Anson Williams was there, and we just had this huge love fest, and we got
Oh,
pictures
that's great.
together. And this was just a few months ago. So Henry and I are still really close friends. We just went out a couple of times, but he is without question, of all the celebrities that I've worked with or known, the nicest man in this town. He is by far the nicest person, one of the nicest people I've ever met.
That's so good to hear.
I have to jump in with a real quick story about him. I was on the Paramount lot one day and walked past the Happy Days where they had their evening meal, and I was inside there for a little while, and then I went to go carry on with my business, and he came chasing after me and he said, "You're Ike Eisenman, aren't you?" He said, you starred in that Graffiti movie, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You are an incredible actor." And he just paid me this huge compliment. And I thought, all right, the Fonz is like just chased me down the street to tell me I'm such a great actor. So he's just, the few times that I have had a chance to meet him, he's so incredibly nice, and you hear that from everyone. So I'm glad to hear you say the same thing.
Oh my gosh. I mean, he just brings joy into the room,
Yeah.
So.
What's great is because we've spoken to so many people on this show that they shatter my illusions of a lot of celebrities that I like. That, oh, this one he was terrible, and I'm glad to hear that Henry Winkler is like exactly who I think he is. So
he is. He's so sweet.
But you were also on another show that I was a huge fan of growing up, and was religious viewing in my house. The Tony Orlando Dawn show. So how did you come into that one?
Wow. Now that's another crazy story. Now, prior to moving to LA, and one of the ways I moved to LA was that I was doing a lot of dinner theater when dinner theater was raging in the the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just going from town to town to town doing dinner theater, all comedy, So I had worked with kooky Ed Burns, 77 Sunset Strip. We had done a tour, and Wally Englehart, and just a bunch of different romance comedies that people would eat, and we would be on a big theater stage, doing it was all comedy. And I had been cast as Bobby Michelle in Last of the Red Hot Lovers. And so I did one production with Wally Englehart, and then I got another production with Pat Paulson, and Pat Paulson was a big thing on Laugh-In.
Yeah.
So he was one of the series regulars on Laugh-In, and his manager agent from ICM came, and I was getting rave reviews playing spaced out stoner Bobby Michelle, and I always played real dumb, like just ditzy blonde, and so that agent came backstage and said, "Move to Hollywood." And I'd never been to LA, and I went, "Well, I don't know, I kind of like New York." And so anyway, he said, "No, we'll rep you. You've got to come to LA." So I came to LA, sight unseen, thought it was a dump, just thought, oh my God, this is horrible looking town. But anyway, anyway, I don't know. That was my first impression. And so he said so he got me this audition for Tony Orlando and Dawn, and he said, you're going to have to do stand-up comedy. Well, he had seen me do comedy, but I'd never done stand-up. And so he said, they want to see you in some characters. And I thought, well, when I was little, I used to watch the Miss America show. I never missed it. I would watch those girls and watch them walk and watch them talk and look at the differences of the states, like Miss Mississippi. And so I decided to be Miss Mississippi for my audition, where I twirled and a baton for my talent and called him Bart Perks. And I said, well, Mr. Parks, and I am from Mississippi. That's MISSISSISSISSIPPI. And, and I twirled the baton. And I was up against all these professional stand-up people. I don't know how I got it. I almost fainted when they called and said, you're a series regular.
Wow.
And they teamed me with George Carlin. And it was like, I went, oh my God. And I did that season until the show got canceled. And
wow.
It was amazing working with George Carlin. And we were both invited to audition for the very first season of Saturday Night Live in New York.
Wow. Oh my God.
We were being paid good money to do Tony Orlando and Dawn, and Saturday Night Live was an unseen commodity. Nobody knew what it was going to be. And George said, let's just turn it down. And I went, yeah, it's not paying enough. And so
oh my,
both turned it down. That's a good Hollywood story. Be careful what you turn down.
Oh man, no kidding. No kidding. Well, what was it like working with Tony Orlando and Dawn?
Well, it was rushed. People think that it's the illusion is that we make it look like fun and we're having such a great time. That kind of program is fast paced from sketch to sketch and change to change, and it's work. It's hard work, and learning your lines and learning the skits and learning figuring out where the laughs are and all that stuff. So, I know that it's made, everybody thinks it's an easy job and it's made to look easy. I think it's one of the hardest things in the world to be focused and know where the camera is, but you can't look in the camera, but you know where it is. And there are times on that kind of show they want you to look in the camera, and it's just a bunch of action and body, and you have to stay so focused, to know where you're going to go next. And you're thrown from the makeup chair to the hair chair to the wardrobe room. And it's like you just stand there like a robot, and then they, dress you and do you and powder you. And there's always somebody in your face fixing the makeup and stuff. It's hard work. And so,
yeah, sure.
They were all lovely. I've run into, Thelma from time to time. And they could not have been nicer. Everybody was nice to each other, including Tony, though he, I got to do sketches with Freddie Prinze, senior, not junior. Junior's great, but Freddie Prinze Senior was, oh my God, so that was really cool. I have footage of me and Freddie Prinze, and yeah. So those were the days.
Who were some of your favorite guests to work with?
Well, I loved working with Chuck Berry. He was a hoot, because he was down and dirty, and oh my God, he was so nice to me. And he stands out. I mean, he was really cool. And George Carlin was probably my favorite.
Oh,
wow. I mean, of that show. I did a couple of what do you call it? Variety shows. you know, what was the other one I did? I can't remember. Uh, oh, Shana Na. So I was a series regular on the show Shana Na. And so, actually, I think I worked with Chuck Berry on that one. I did. You know, after this many years, you kind of go. Anyway, but George Carlin was definitely comedically my favorite to work with.
Wow. Well, does your life start to change when you become a regular on a series?
Yeah. You know, I was recruited to sign with Pat McQueenie, who was the president of the Corporation of Personal Managers in LA. And she was the top manager in town. And she has Harrison Ford, Cindy Williams, and me. And she asked me to sign with her, and I did. And that was a cloudy, powerful group. And one of the things she said is, you cannot go to the grocery store. You cannot go out, even outside your door, without having yourself together, makeup. You know, you can't just be you anymore. And I'll never forget that discussion, because I realized at that point my anonymity was gone. And I was very recognizable. I started to get hassled on the street in New York, in the grocery stores, and then I started getting window peepers every night.
Oh, wow.
I began to withdraw from the desire to be famous. I never went into acting or this job to be famous. I loved to just do the work. And fame and money were never my motivational factors. As a matter of fact, I was so young when I was doing it, it didn't dawn on me that those were ingredients that come with this job. Those are elements that just come with it if you're successful. So I was very happy and peaceful being an unknown, just getting jobs. And I kind of shifted my personality in a way of being more paranoid and, you know, afraid to go out and being followed. And I did have a couple of incidences that were very, very scary. And I had to become more protective of myself. And it was uncomfortable, you know. It wasn't, it's not all that it looks like. Yeah. Even in the magazines or social media, you lose a part of yourself when you get that. And I can go to the grocery store now and the gym without makeup and so I love my anonymity now. You know, I love to, you know, if somebody says, "Oh, I'm such a fan," and I get fan mail and stuff, but I can just go to the grocery store. Nobody knows who the hell I am. I'm just another shopper, you know? And I like that. I really like that. I don't like being approached.
Well, I'm just looking at some of the shows that you mentioned. I mean, that we've discussed. You were on Happy Days. You were a series regular in Tony Orlando, and then another huge series. You were on Welcome Back, Kotter for like a few episodes, and it was a fairly prominent role. So what was that experience like? You know, you're just talking about the fame there. So what was that experience like being on that show? And was there ever talk about making you a regular?
Yes, there was. They offered me a regular job again, as be careful what you say no to. But I was from a very strong theater background. I'd gone to New York to do Broadway. You know, my dream was just to stay in New York and do Broadway. And I'd been offered a role at the Amundsen Theater here in LA to play Charlotte Goodall. And I knew Tennessee Williams was going to be part of the production staff. He was going to be around rehearsals and stuff. And I auditioned and was cast opposite Richard Chamberlain and Raymond Massey, Dorothy McGuire and Eleanor Parker. And to me, and Tennessee was there at the audition. And to me, it was like, this was as big as it gets. You know, this was as my dream had come true to work with Tennessee Williams and
Hmm.
this type of actor, and being taken seriously as an actor with Richard Chamberlain. He was a big deal then. And so I said no to Welcome Back, Kotter. I said, nope.
Wow.
I'm not doing a sitcom when I can go to the legitimate stage and have legitimacy as an actor, which is all that I really wanted at the time. And so I don't have any regrets about that, because of all the things I've ever done. I think it's my most powerful, self-satisfying project I ever did.
Mm.
Well, I want to talk about something else that I loved. Of course, I was addicted as a kid. You were on the Croft Super Show with, Electra Woman and Dinah Girl, and Miss Dazzle. You were. So how did you come into that? And was that as fun as it looked to hear in those things?
That was fun. That was a really fun show. I really developed a sweet friendship with Judy Stranges, who was Dinah Girl. And one day on the set, that we were working with the tiger, and so there I had started my period, and you can't have any kind of
on the animal.
that smell is going to attack you and kill you.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
So so I'm coming into the set in my little tutu and tights, and my makeup and my hair, and the tiger starts going,
Oh my gosh! Wow!
And the guy said, "Are you on your period?" I go, "Yeah, I just started." He said, "Oh, let's get the tiger out of here," And so it was like, yeah, it was fun, but again, people.
Oh wow!
People just, it looks like all comedy and so easy, and people who haven't done it, they just don't know all the crazy things that can happen.
Well, I have to tell you, I have heard another story that went down exactly like that on a commercial shoot. An actress that I knew back in the day, and the same thing happened. That it leapt at her, and thankfully it was on a chain. The trainer was able to stop it, and it was terrifying. But that is very true. It's very true. Wow. Oh man. Well, did the Crofts have very much involvement with the show, or did you see them having involvement with the show?
Yeah, they were always at the set at the time.
Oh, okay.
They
Awesome.
were new. They were kind of, all their projects were kind of new when I got here, so they were very hands-on. Sid and Marty were there, and it was fun. It was fun to work with them. Again, you learn your lines. You're going to makeup. You hit your mark, and you're at work. It's a job. It's like working at an office in a way. You're expected to do your work, and so there's some socialization, when you have lunch and things like that, but a lot of times actors are still working on their lines for the next scene coming up or whatever. But I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun on a stupid Sid and Marty Krofft show called Kids from Caper. They kept hiring me, and I was older than I looked. And so I was playing these 15, 16, 17-year-old girls, and I wasn't 16. And so I was getting a little, that's why doing the play, though Charlotte Goodall is very young, it wasn't a silly kid show. It wasn't sitcom. It was a legitimate project that I wanted to do. But I was getting worried about playing 16 for so long. And I did play 16 for a long, long time. And I did have a problem transitioning from ingenue to woman, that you get typecast, or now they call it branding. Back then they called it typecasting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was typecast as an ingenue. So to go from ingenue to leading lady is very difficult. It was for me. It's not for some people. And it's not as hard now as it was.
Okay. Well, I do want to ask about I want to ask about Three's Company. So you shot the second pilot. It had already been done once with a slightly different concept, and you replaced someone else just prior to filming. So how did you become involved in it? And were you aware of the history when you came in? I mean, the previous pilot had been recorded and you replacing a different actress?
No, no, I didn't know anything about it. I had just
Really?
I'd gone into the desert to I was just returned from the desert from doing pickups on the Hills Have Eyes. And I was in the grocery store. We didn't have cell phones back then. And I got paged at the grocery store. Susan Lanier, come to the office. What is that? And so I go to the office and they said, get over to it was my agent, Martin Gage at the time. And he said, get over to ABC. And I said, I'm in the grocery store. I've got sand in my hair. I don't have any makeup on. We had no groceries at home. I had a kid, and he was a little bitty kid, and so I was grocery shopping. He was with the housekeeper, and so he said, "I don't care what you're doing. You leave that grocery cart right where it is and get over to ABC." It was filled with stuff. I left it there and it got over to ABC. They showered me. They washed my hair. They put my makeup on. They had clothes for me to put on with huge cue cards that had all of Chrissy's lines on it. And they had just fired this girl, and there were only 4 days left to shoot a pilot. That meant 4 days to learn. And this particular episode was about Chrissy's mother coming to visit. So Chrissy had more of the lines than anybody else. So I was like, how am I going to learn all these lines in 4 days and learn blocking? And so they screen tested me. I arrived at ABC about 7 o'clock at night. So after showering and all that stuff and the cue cards and taping it, I left there about 1 o'clock in the morning. They put the tape on an airplane. Freddie Silverman was in New York. They flew the tape to New York, I guess on a private plane or a commercial plane. I don't know. The next morning, I get a call from my agent. You got the part, get over to the set.
Wow.
And so he had negotiated a lot of money for me to, I was more known than John or Joyce. Joyce wasn't known at all. And so and this was like her first thing, I think. And she was under contract at ABC. And when you're under contract, you don't make so much money. And then John, I don't know what his arrangement was, but I know that my agent got very greedy and negotiated a lot of money for me for those 4 days. And then to carry over, if it goes into series, was a ton of money. And John had a favored nations clause in his contract. And so to avoid having to pay two people a lot of money on a side, a show that wasn't out yet, they decided they would not use me and get Suzanne, who was not, who just, she was working, for a reasonable amount of money, and they got her. So, and she did a great job. I didn't know Suzanne, but I thought that she did a really good job of Chrissy. I think she did a better job of it than I could have done of it, to be honest. And I think they made a wise choice. So, it's one of those things.
Wow. Yeah. Well, we all have stories like that, it seems. Had you been aware of the British version of the show, Man About the House?
Well, later. I didn't have time to research anything about this because it was grocery store set.
Wow, that's just
so
amazing.
I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know what it was about. When I was shooting it, I had to learn what it was about on the set. So I didn't know anything about it. I did find out later the history of it and that the pilot had already been done and whatever pilot had been done. I don't think Joyce was in the first pilot. She was in, I don't know how many times it was done, but it was done.
I don't think she was in the first one either, from what I read. I don't think she was.
She wasn't in the first one.
Yeah.
John was. So John was attached to it the entire time.
Did you hear any rumblings at all that it might happen? I mean, did it just come out of the blue?
That it might what?
That they might cut you and like keep
I'd done other pilots. I did a lot of pilots after that. My favorite pilot I ever did was called Over and Out. It was with Michelle Lee, Ken Berry, Alice Playton, Mary Jo Catlett. It was hysterically funny.
Mhm.
And I jump out of an airplane it's World War II, and I jump out of an airplane blowing my fingernails dry. And I sing, I got to sing in it because I'm a singer. I got to sing in it. I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places. And it was produced by, I can't remember his name, a huge Hollywood music producer. And I get to jump in a what do you call it, hole in the ground where the bombs are coming. And it was hysterically funny. It was done by Viacom. And that was my favorite pilot. When that pilot did not go, and I had done that one before, Three's Company, I understood, because if there was ever a pilot, it was written by Linda Bloodworth, who did Designing Women. And so Linda Bloodworth is a brilliant comedy writer. And so there was no question in my mind that Over and Out pilot would not be a success and that it would not go. I just believed with all my heart that it was going to go. And when it didn't, I was very crushed. Not so much with Three's Company, because I had already done some pilots that didn't get picked up, and I understood how easy it is not to get picked up. And I just wasn't picked up, and I'd been around enough by then to know it's a crapshoot. I also think I knew my agent had over negotiated my salary. So I knew that could end up being an issue.
Did anyone in the cast reach out to you after, or no?
No. Funny thing is, John Ritter's first wife, Nancy Ritter, and Carly, his daughter, I'm very close friends with. I talked to Nancy last week, and she is the most adorable, fabulous, beautiful woman. She was an actress then, and I don't know if she's still acting, but I think mainly she just likes having a peaceful, easy life. She's a grandmother, and she loves her grandkids, and I'm very close to his family and never got close to him.
Oh, amazing.
Well, you kind of, I think you answered this question because you did see it, but could you bear to watch the series afterwards?
Well, I was a little bit angry when they released it on a DVD because I had never seen it. And so the world got to see it before I did. I didn't hate my work on it. I thought I was fine on it. I don't know actually who I probably could sue somebody. I'm not sure, but I didn't. I just left, man, there it is. I watched it once. That was it.
Were there any other roles that you almost got along the way?
Oh my God. That countless. I auditioned for Carrie, with Brian De Palma. I auditioned for the one with Brad. He passed away. Midnight. I can't remember the other
Midnight
side.
Express.
Midnight Express.
Wow. Okay.
And I got really close to being the lead girl in that.
Oh wow.
And that audition was really weird because they made us audition for the scene where she touches herself in the prison.
Oh my gosh.
And so that I was just so young then, and did the scene, so I came really when you're on the kind of A- list, I guess at the time I was kind of on the A- list. You do get some great opportunities, and you just never know when it's going to be a fit. It's like, it's got to be the fit with the director and the actor and stuff like that. So yeah, I got a lot of really wonderful opportunities, and I still do from time to time.
Oh well, I hope you do.
Yeah, I mean, I auditioned for that thing, something about Pam, that Renee Zellweger just did, not for her role, but for one of the parts in that. And so, you know, I still, you know, I just did a film. And so, and I have another film I'm doing in March, and I don't really,
great.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to ask for that. So let's talk about something that you did star in. Let's talk about The Hills Have Eyes. How did you get involved in that, and what was that audition process like?
There wasn't much of an audition for that because, like I said, I was on the A list, and they were a small budget production. And so A minus list. And so, I mean, I wasn't, you know, Bridget Bardot or Elizabeth Taylor. That's the A list. So I'm saying a step B list. Let's call it a B list. And so I was on the B list. And so the casting director knew my work, Gus Shermer and Carol Propp. And I was friends with Carol, who was helping Gus cast The Hills Have Eyes. And they called me in, and it was not an audition. It was a meeting with Wes Craven and Peter Locke, the producer. And it was more like, let's just improv a couple of scenes together. And with Wes, he only had Last House on the Left under his belt. And he was just so laid back and easy breezy and kind. And so we did the scene, and he just said, you know, we want you to play the lead. We want you to star in this film. And I said, well, I'd love to. And so when I went and told my agent, he said, you're not doing a horror movie. It'll kill your career. You're not doing a horror movie. I'm saying, no, I'm turning it down. I said, no, you're not. I want to segue from TV, which I felt like I'd done a lot of TV in a short amount of time. I want to be a movie star. You know, I want to do movies. I want to do drama. I want to do real stuff. And so I did it, and he was not pleased, but and nobody had any idea that it would become a cult or a film that people loved. I just thought I was starring in a movie, and people would know I starred in one movie at least, and maybe it would lead to the next one. Well, you never know when the steps or decisions you make in your life are going to influence not just your career, but your personal life. And so when it was released in 1977, my husband, the man I ended up marrying, had gone to see The Hills Have Eyes with his girlfriend at a drive-in. And he was Delaney Bramlett, rock star, a blues legend. And so he was playing at the Troubadour. And so my girlfriend from Texas, husband, was in his band playing trumpet. And she said, let's go to the Troubadour. It was actually the Starwood, but he says the Troubadour, but it wasn't. It was the Starwood. And so anyway, in Hollywood, and I had a job the next day, and I said, no, I don't want to go. I don't even know if I like this music. And she said, oh, come on, let's go. You're no fun anymore. All you do is work. I said, all right. So we go, and we go up to the stage, by the stage, for her to say, Daryl, we're here. And Delaney looks down at me, and he just puts his guitar down, and it comes down, and he said, I saw you in a movie last night. I'm going to marry you. And I go, I have a boyfriend. And he said, I don't give a shit. And so he talked me into giving him my phone number, which I did. And we fell in love.
That's great.
In a week. And we were together for a lot of years. We broke up a few times and went back together a few times. But I actually found it awakened, just meeting him awakened a whole new career for myself, which was songwriting, music, which I get as much joy from, if not more joy from, than acting. Because he was one of the greats. And to learn from somebody that much of a genius, he's revered. He was revered by George Harrison and Eric Clapton. He produced Clapton's first album, wrote most of the songs. And so, he was very revered. And so to learn how to write a song from somebody like that is much more valuable than going to a school. So, so we were in the recording studio all the time. I really lost interest in being an actor on a set with the demands that were being made. I had so much fun just writing songs with him, singing a little backup. I'm not, you know, Bonnie Raitt or anything, but I enjoyed the music so much, and I still do. If I'm depressed, I go to the piano and write a song. I just released a Christmas song this year.
We're going to ask about that later. We're going to ask about that one.
So, you know, doing The Hills Have Eyes led to a husband and a life that I never, just having said yes to doing The Hills Have Eyes led to life.
Well, we are going to get to the music for sure. We want to have that down. But I want to ask, because at that time, he doesn't have the reputation like he does now. What was Wes Craven like as a director?
Oh, he was so sweet and shy and a little, and I think he was a little intimidated, not intimidated, but he was very respectful of my track record. And he would ask me to come look at the dailies, you know, so and no director had ever done that with me before. And so we were in the hotel in Victorville, California, and he would say, come look at the dailies and tell me what you think. He and Peter Locke both. Peter Locke produced it. I just saw Peter at his birthday a few weeks ago, or a couple of months ago. And so I'm still in touch with him. And I was in touch with Wes forever. Wes was so sweet and shy and had been a school teacher. So he just had the patience of so sweet and let us play with the scenes and stuff. In that type of movie, yes, it's scripted, but it's also improvised. So we had to do a lot of improvisation.
Wow. Oh, geez. Well, when you're in a horror movie like that and it's filmed in that location, is there any part of it that really feels scary, or because you're involved in shooting and working, it just takes all that fear away?
It was uncomfortable, particularly the scene where the dog is dragging me on the desert floor. You know, I'm scared of spiders, and there were a lot of spiders out there, and the element. It was hard. I was covered in bruises by the end of that shoot, and even on the pickups, I had told Martin Gage before the Three's Company audition, I said, I'm covered in bruises. I don't care. They'll cover them up. Get over there. But it's physically hard. You really have to run, and you really have to jump off the car, and you know, you really have to pretend you're being raped, and it's very physical. Again, I think when you're looking at the movie, you might not realize how physical it really is.
I wanted to ask about the cast. You had Dee Wallace and Michael Berryman. What was it like working with them?
Well, Dee was new and had done a few things, and Michael had done Cuckoo's Nest, but Michael only had 3 lines in The Hills Have Eyes, so I didn't have very many lines with him. Except the rape scene, pretty much. And yeah, I think that was pretty much it. He was great to work with, very sweet. And Dee and I just bonded as girlfriends because, you know, we were sisters in the movie, and we would go work out at night at the local gym in Victorville. And she lives close to me now. I did a movie with her daughter, Gabrielle, not long ago, a few years ago, called Cut. And so I've worked with Dee and her daughter, Gabrielle, and we're all neighbors. So Michael was our neighbor as well, but he moved a few years ago to Michigan, I think.
Well, I was reading that the film was partly inspired by a real incident that happened to Wes Craven. Do you know if that's true?
I don't think it's an incident that happened to Wes Craven. I think it was an incident he read about.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
It wasn't something that happened to him.
Yeah.
No.
So you mentioned that it was an uncomfortable shoot. Were there any other anecdotes that happened behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, the budget was small, And so they got non-union stunt coordinators.
Oh no.
And so
Oh.
my mother in the scene where she gets shot in the trailer, she had not put on a sturdy enough bra, I suppose, and so they had put a squib right
Oh
underneath
my.
her in her stomach. And so when the squib exploded on her body, which usually doesn't touch us, it blew off her breast, the
Oh my
nipple
gosh.
part of it. And so
Oh my gosh.
she was rushed to the hospital. She never was able to shoot again. She had to be in the hospital for a while. And that
Oh.
we don't usually talk about these things, but it that was very disturbing.
Sure.
Very, very, very disturbing.
Oh.
So sometimes I get mad at the union in terms of their negotiations and whatever, but there are reasons that they exist, and part of it is the safety of everybody.
Wow.
God, man. Well, the film first earned an X rating. Was there concern on your part when that happened?
No, the edgier the better as far as I'm concerned. But I'm living in New York. You, you see everything. I auditioned for I Am Putney Swope with Robert Downey Sr. and in New York, and there was a lot of underground independent film. It was just underground films that were done in New York. And I had done a few of those. There was one called I'm Curious Yellow, and John Cassavetes was just doing all these dark, arty movies that were weird, and there were a bunch of uh, you know, it was an era of edge. I had been cast in Hair on Broadway, so I was no prude. I never have been, and so that was just, it didn't matter to me if it was X-rated. I mean, the X-rated came from my being raped. That would be the only X rating that, or maybe the cannibalism. I don't know, but no, I didn't. At that time I didn't care about that.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the reception was like when it came out?
Um, I think it was shocking. I think people were shocked. I went on the tour with Wes and Peter in Dallas and different places we would fly around where it was premiered. And uh, people liked it, but it was just one of those movies that grew. And it's not shocking at all today. I mean, it's Mother Teresa time now, with what they show even on a regular television show. Back then, it was edgy. It's not edgy now. It's just scary that something like that could possibly happen. I had no idea, neither did Dee or Michael or anybody have any inkling that it would ever become a cult classic, but it was just another show as far as I was concerned, but another film. But yeah, I think it grew in enthusiasm. I don't remember getting bad reviews. I don't remember the movie ever getting any horrible reviews, but I also don't remember it being, oh my God, have you seen, that kind of thing. It was not Academy Award material, unfortunately.
Well, it's constantly ranked on the list of top horror movies of all time. What do you see as the legacy of The Hills Have Eyes?
Well, it was very raw. It's very organic. And in watching the remake, which I like Emily DeRaven a lot. I thought she did a great job. But I think the remake lost the raw, oh my God, this could really happen element to it. It was too overproduced and gimmicked and special effected. And so I think that just who knows what makes a movie a classic. uh, besides the longevity of its popularity and each generation watching it. I have very young kids who are just being introduced to it who love it, and it's just so raw and real, and not overproduced like most of the things that are even on TV right now. Ain't no AI in The Hills Have Eyes.
Were you asked to be in the sequel at all or no?
Yes.
You weren't.
Yes, but it wasn't. I was busy.
Okay.
That's always a good reason. And how about any other films of the franchise? Have you been approached to appear?
Which franchise would
like
that
the remake?
Yeah. The remake? No, I was not in. No. As a matter of fact, that came about Wes and me and Janice, I think Blythe and Dee. There were a few of us, Michael too, I think. We were at a screening of it with a Q&A at a theater in Santa Monica about a year before the remake happened. And one of the audience members said, "Have you thought about a remake?" And we thought maybe that would include us. Sure. And I could see the light bulb go off on Wes's head. It was like, and so he didn't even get to direct it. You know what I mean? But I knew that might happen. None of us were included. None of us were asked to be a part of it. It's a
missed opportunity, yes.
Yeah. Well, I was too old to play Brenda. I could have played the mother maybe, but I thought it was okay. I mean, it doesn't have the I don't see it being featured at a lot of the horror cons or anything like that. Not like the original.
Are you a big fan of horror in general?
I ended up, because of The Hills Have Eyes, I ended up doing more than I want to brag about, because I feel much more inclined to love a more legitimate kind of project, and not that horror is not. But because I did The Hills Have Eyes, I do get invited to be in different horror movies, and I love working. So I'm very grateful to horror fans, and I'm grateful to the horror genre that at this age I'm still able to work. And I do go up for other things and get them sometimes, but I can stay pretty busy working in horror if I want to just go from movie to movie. So I did a couple of them last year, and I'm working with new or upcoming directors, and that's kind of exciting because any of them could segue into more other kinds of genres of film. And so, it's like, again, like I said, it's who you know a lot about, who you've worked with, and they know your work. So I'm just grateful today to be alive, and grateful to be able to keep working. I teach acting, and so on Zoom, and I love doing that to share film technique, because there's a lot of acting classes around, but very few people, teachers that I've even studied with, have been on as many sets as I have to share set acting. How do you work on the set and matching your blocking and being able to keep the scene going if the director doesn't call cut and things like that. I teach stuff like that. And so if anybody's interested, DM me.
Yes.
For sure. Well, have you seen the X-Files episode Home, which was supposed to be an homage to The Hills Have Eyes?
No.
It's
but I did. But I do watch Schitt's Creek, which I love.
Oh my gosh, what a great show!
It's my nighttime go to sleep show, because I love the character.
Oh my gosh.
And I just love all of those people, and so I feel at home with those people. So I don't even care what they're saying. I just like to watch them. And The Crows Have Eyes was, when Moya does The Crows Have Eyes, I went, okay. Now The Hills Have Eyes is really a classic. Both Have Eyes.
Well, let's talk about your music that we brought up before. So over the holidays, you released, the Christmas single, Merry Christmas on My Own. And it was really good. And I encourage everyone to go download it. It's, is that something that you want to do more of? And we look forward to more of that from you.
Yeah, because I guess I'm a creative workaholic. I don't like paperwork. I don't like housework, but I love to be creative at all times. And I don't have to wait for a manager to send me or an agent to send me an audition. I can just go in the other room, sit down at the piano, put my fingers on the keys, and out comes, I can write a song. And it's a great spiritual, soulful release for me. And whether I have learned not to judge my work, I can't compare it with anybody else's. It's like just write what comes out, and there's going to be some really great songs, and there's going to be some really songs. Some people will love them. It's what's on my mind at the time, and so I find it to be better than meditation. That's my meditation. It's just going and playing the piano, and sometimes a song comes out and sometimes it doesn't. I went to Texas when my mother was alive in 2009 and 10, and both times I caught a very bad respiratory infection both times. I went to the same country doctor both times for antibiotics or whatever, because I was really sick. And he said, well, all I can say is I think you might be allergic to Texas. And I went, when that's my next song.
That's great.
That's a great title.
Oh my God. That is
so my new EP is called Allergic to Texas.
Well, sorry, Jonathan, no, go ahead.
No, I said that I felt, I think I mentioned that the song, the Christmas song, definitely gave me such a melancholy feel, like I said. So I definitely encourage, for you to do more, first of all, and for other fans to go in and seek you out, your music.
Oh, please do. A woman wrote me. She downloaded Merry Christmas on My Own, is what it's called. And she said, my husband died a month before Christmas. And I listened to that song over and over throughout Christmas. And it's the only thing that got me through. And if I can do that for just one woman or one person, then that is everything to me.
Fantastic.
If it's just one person, that I helped one person understand that they're not alone getting through Christmas by themselves. Because my husband passed away in 2008, and Christmas was a big deal for us. And it was on my bucket list to not leave the planet without having a Christmas song. And I started it in July, and I decided it had to be finished by Christmas. Well, I had to have a knee surgery on the day before Thanksgiving. So I wrote it, finished it, recorded it very quickly. And I thought, well, while I'm recuperating with my knee surgery, I will promote the song. Well, it was a little harder recuperation than I thought. And so, but I did get it out, and it did get on the radio. But next year I'll put it out with a little bit more, fanfare, and see if it has legs. But it has already made it to a film. So
wow.
That's good. Yeah. And it's sad, but I didn't mean it to be sad. I meant it to be, I'm going to celebrate Christmas anyway, even though I don't have the life I used to have. And Christmas was a big deal for us, and lots of family and lots of food and lots of gifts and lots of kids. And as we age, people pass and family disperses, and it's, we have to go with that, rather than fight it, because, it is what it is. So I just thought maybe the song might give somebody comfort, and it did. So that I accomplished my goal.
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. Well, you mentioned fan conventions. Do you do a lot of them? And if so, do you have anything coming up?
I have one that I'm contracted to do in August.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not um, I'm not a cheerful flyer. And so we always have to fly to these conventions sort of the day before, and we, carry all this merchandise.
Yeah.
And so it's not as fun as it was when I did it before. I've never done very many of them. I make my money in music a lot
Mhm.
and acting things. And so um it's not my favorite thing to do. And once COVID hit, I just went, that, there are a lot of people that come up to you and they want to touch you
Yeah.
or, make contact with you. And I love my fans. I honestly do. But COVID, I lost a lot of friends to COVID, one recently and two recently. And I just don't want people trying to get that close. Um, I know that might sound neurotic, but when you lose people to these viruses, I think you think about your own vulnerability, and so I have one I'm going to do in August in Cleveland. I think it's called the Cleveland HorrorCon or something. Um, I'm contracted to do that, and I'll do that one.
Hmm. Okay.
And I like to do them once in a while. I'm not Michael goes out almost every weekend and does them. I would be dead by now if I if I was doing that. That talk about hard work. Whew, sitting there all day going, "Hi, yeah, I did that. Here's and I also feel weird about selling a picture. You know, I want to just sign it and give it to them, and sometimes I do because I feel like I'm so honored that they are a fan that I should be paying them, almost. So it's like I have to charge them to sign a picture. And when I have a rep sending me to these things, that's how they make their money. And so I have no choice. I can't just sign it and give it away.
Yeah.
So I feel weird about charging to sign my name, though I do find my pictures for sale on eBay every day. So, and some of them I haven't signed. So I find my autograph on eBay that I did not sign.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, jeez.
I found recently a Post-it. It was a Post-it with just Susan Lanier on it. And I didn't sign that. And
Wow.
they were asking like $40 for it or something. And I'm going, what? I didn't even sign it. And so a lot of them most of them I've signed. That was one of the rare ones. But
Someone who's watching this that bought a $40 Post-it note is going to be very upset after this episode. So,
yeah.
well, well, what are you working on next? What project do you have lined up next?
Well, I have a film I'm contracted to do in Houston
Mhm.
in March, and getting more music out, and working on my cabaret show, and I'm also working on a script that I'm writing. So, and I teach acting, so I stay very busy. I have PT every Tuesday and Thursday, and then I've got to work on this recovery. And so, of my knee, it's almost there though. And I'll be tap dancing before you know it. And just working on my different projects. Now that the strike is over and the holidays are over, I'm beginning to um, be ready to go back out to audition for some TV shows and stuff. And hopefully, I'll get a
Hope
really
so.
good meaty role.
So how can people follow you in social media, and where can they find you for acting classes? So let's get that out.
Just DM me from my Instagram or my Facebook. And I go by two names with the music. I'm Susan Lanier Bramlett, and Susan Lanier and they both interconnect. So all you have to do is type Susan Lanier, and Susan Lanier Bramlett will come up. So don't get confused. For 5 minutes, not in the 80s, I went by Susan Lanier and then Bramlett for music, and everybody's confused by that. But I'm the same person, and so if you IMDb me, it's Susan Lanier, and but Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's one of those names. So if you do Susan Lanier, it'll come up.
Well, Susan, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. We're both big fans, and we're looking forward to it. And it's such a treat to get to speak with you.
It was great talking to you too. Thank you for having me on. I'm so appreciative, and hope you have a great 2024.
Well, this has been Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen with Ike Eisenman. And again, a very special thanks to Susan Lanier. And please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast.